Even apart from the recent Epstein file leaks, there are a lot of other celebrities who are involved with him. Honestly, Hollywood is worse than you can even imagine. I could still name quite a few people.
They're in the position to actually know the people's names on the list.
Yeah.
Those people are probably in trouble.
Yeah.
Because that's a crazy piece of information to have.
Look.
No one's been tried. No one's been brought. No one's been discussed. We know who went there. We know flight logs. No one talks about anything. There's no effort to process.
Actors and actresses in the audience, they look terrified at the idea of you mentioning their name. Did you feel that?
I did, and I noticed it the first time. I didn't get it. Like, one of the first one I did it, people would come up and say, what are you going to say about me? I think, why do you care? I only go after their public behaviour. Who do I pander to? The 200 richest people in the room, or the 200 million people watching at home who aren't winning awards, who aren't...
What if Hollywood's biggest secret was never actually hidden, just protected? For years, people laughed off the Epstein story like it was another internet conspiracy. A billionaire with a private island, politicians, celebrities, royalty, tech billionaires, all flying in and out like it was nothing. But then something changed. The flight logs surfaced, the connections started lining up, and suddenly, some of the most powerful people on Earth stopped joking about it. Joe Rogan began openly questioning why nobody was being investigated. Ricky Gervais started mocking Hollywood elites directly to their faces. And according to people watching closely, the fear inside celebrity circles became impossible to ignore. Because once names start leaking, everybody starts wondering who's next. And the strangest part? The people who knew the most suddenly became the quietest. Ricky Gervais has always done something most celebrities avoid completely. He says the uncomfortable thing out loud. While award shows were filled with actors pretending to care about morality and justice, Ricky walked directly into the room and started naming the hypocrisy nobody wanted mentioned. And when he casually dropped Epstein's name in front of Hollywood's elite, the reaction said more than the joke itself ever could.
That's a show about a man who wants to kill himself because his wife cancer, and it's still more fun than this, okay? Spoiler alert, season 2 is on the way, so in the end, he obviously didn't himself, just like Jeffrey Epstein. Shut up! I know he's your friend, but I don't care.
All that stuff I said in the show was true. I said, oh, I'm going to write my own jokes. Right? And I thought, who do I pander to? The 200 richest people in the room, or the 200 million people watching at home.
As public pressure grew, powerful names suddenly started distancing themselves from Epstein. Some claimed they barely knew him, others called the meetings mistakes. But critics noticed something strange. Almost everyone had the exact same explanation, and Joe Rogan wasn't buying all of it. Because according to witnesses and leaked reports, Epstein wasn't just hanging around random rich people. He was building relationships with some of the most influential men on Earth.
I was foolish to spend time with him. I was one of many people who regret ever knowing him. You know, every minute I spent with him, I regret, and I, apologize that I did that.
I also met Jeffrey Epstein exactly one time. I regretted it from the second I stepped in the door. I had nightmares about it afterwards.
You're sitting down there having cocktails while Bill Clinton's getting a massage from some girl who's rubbing her tits against the back of his head, whether knowingly or unknowingly having sex with underage girls.
Everybody wants to be.
Maybe some guys, that was their thing.
Sure.
Because it seemed like with Epstein, that was his thing.
Yeah.
This is where the story becomes darker than most people realize. Joe Rogan and several investigative voices began suggesting that Epstein may not have been operating alone at all. Because when you look at the scale of the network, private jets, intelligence connections, political relationships, billionaires, royalty, media figures, it starts looking less like one criminal and more like an entire system. A system built on influence, access, and silence.
It's so tangled. The whole thing is just, I think everybody who looks at it realizes this is a rabbit hole that just goes to the center of the earth. And there's so many people involved in that. Here's the big question that people ask. If there was a Jeffrey Epstein, and it seems like all these things he is involved in, is there a Jeffrey Epstein right now that we don't know about?
There's a million of them.
A million of them.
I mean, this is why I find this. This is not the core of what I focus on, but I find it a really interesting field of study because it helps understand so many other U.S. government institutions and the relationship between government and private business. Jeffrey Epstein is part of a class of what are effectively professional fixers. And this is a kind of class of professional who sits not really within a particular government or private sector institution, but in the kind of sticky layer between them that connects them all.
I can't tell you that I had a crystal ball.
The fallout spreading from Hollywood to corporate America, the media, and Capitol Hill.
And knew that there would be this incredible flood of people in industry after industry, women and men coming forward with different...
Not everybody in Hollywood stayed silent. Some actors started openly talking about exploitation behind closed doors, especially involving children. And according to them, once you start speaking publicly about these subjects, the industry turns on you fast.
I became aware of the dangers that go on with children around the world and through that process.
Jim Caviezel claims the media pressure wasn't accidental. He says once certain stories threaten powerful interests, the attacks begin immediately. Public ridicule, smear campaigns, industry pressure, and many people online believe that's exactly why so few celebrities are willing to discuss Epstein openly even now.
It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. But I had a lot of experience from the Passion of the Christ, and we were humiliated. We were taken through the ringer in the media. This was before Trump came out and said it was, the lying media and the fake news. And they were fake news back when we were doing that, but we had to fight for everything we had. And so we got that film done, so I had a little bit of experience of what this can be.
Then came another wave of internet investigations, this time involving celebrity party culture. As Diddy allegations exploded online, people began revisiting old connections, old photos, and old rumors surrounding elite circles. And one name that kept resurfacing again and again was Naomi Campbell. Suddenly, old stories people ignored for years were being looked at very differently.
One of my best friends, she's not here today, she was human trapped by Naomi Campbell. And Naomi is also Diddy's, the godmother. So she started meeting with all these famous people, and they connected her with certain people. And then all of a sudden she's at these parties, and I see she's doing drugs and getting out of control. And eventually I had to start rescuing her from parties. And then a few of the times I had to rescue her from Naomi Campbell's apartment, sleep over, and then I would pick her up.
This is a direct character assassination. I've always said that I'm not a saint, that I am a work in progress, but I will not be held hostage by my past. What he's done is indefensible.
This is the part where people started connecting dots across multiple industries: fashion, music, Hollywood. Politics. Critics online began arguing that the same elite social circles kept appearing around scandal after scandal. Now legally, many accusations remain disputed or unproven, but the public reaction exploded because people noticed how often the same powerful names seemed connected to controversial figures. And once social media grabbed onto the story, there was no stopping it.
After watching the Diddy documentary, I found myself going back down the Epstein rabbit hole, which then led me to the dark side of Naomi Campbell. If you're unaware, Naomi Campbell is one of the original supermodels, one of the first Black women to appear on major publications, featured on over 500 magazine covers, and worked for some of, if not all, of the biggest fashion houses. It's safe to say she has insane connections. One of those being Jeffrey Epstein. Publicly admitted that she knew Jeffrey Epstein and was introduced to him when she was 31. She was introduced to Epstein by her ex-boyfriend Flavio Briatore, I don't know. The reason this is important is because this Flavio fella is connected to a lot of sketchy people, or people that we know today to be sketchy. We see this a lot where supermodels are dating people like this. Flavio also has a child with Heidi Klum. Anyway, Flavio and Naomi are pictured on Epstein's yacht, surrounded by a lot of people, including, at the time, teenage Virginia Giuffre. So there's no denying that Naomi was connected to Epstein and his cohorts. Allegedly, there are emails where Naomi is talking about Ghislaine Maxwell being a close friend of hers, arranging trips to foreign countries. Naomi's spokesperson came out and said Naomi does not recognize this email exchange. There are claims from survivors that she was more involved in Epstein's inner circle than she leads on, allegedly. A lot of these documents remain sealed or unverified. It means that we can't really say she's guilty of any wrongdoing, but she definitely has connections to some of these sketchy people. Another really sketchy name she was allegedly romantically linked to was the disgraced Sean Diddy Combs. This was in the early 2000s and they were seen going to many events together, but they were never confirmed as a couple. A lot of people think that models happen to end up in these circles because they're in the pageant world or the supermodel world, which breeds creepy, weird old men who want to be in charge of.
And this is where public suspicion exploded online because people kept noticing the same powerful names appearing around elite parties, private circles, and controversial figures again and again. To many viewers, it no longer felt like coincidence. It felt like an entire hidden world operating behind fame, money, and influence, far away from the public eye. Even Elon Musk eventually joined the conversation publicly. The question everybody kept asking was simple. If Epstein really had connections to all these powerful people, where is the full client list? Why are documents still sealed? Why do investigations feel incomplete? And why does every discussion around this case create political chaos almost instantly? Joe Rogan openly admitted that years ago, this entire story sounded too insane to even believe. Now, people argue reality became stranger than conspiracy theories.
You're telling me there's a place where they bring elites to compromise them with underage girls and they film them? Really? Like, what? Cut the out of here.
Yeah.
Like, no, President Clinton's been there. Everyone's been there. Like, what? It sounds like nonsense. And not only is it true, but people keep getting murdered for it. Did you see that latest Clinton advisor that got murdered? Got it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hung with an extension cord, himself in the chest, 30 miles from his house, and they're calling it a suicide.
And now even Elon Musk is asking, where's the clientele list?
Yeah.
We should probably see who's been to that island.
Yeah, we should probably see who's been to that island.
At first, even Rogan thought the story sounded ridiculous. A private island, accurate recordings, powerful people being compromised. It sounded like something straight out of a Hollywood thriller. But once major arrests happened, suddenly the impossible became real. And that realization scared people, because if something this massive stayed hidden for years, what else could still be hidden right now?
Joe says that's exactly what makes this situation so disturbing.
He was the guy who told me about Epstein's Island more than a decade ago, and I thought it was the craziest thing I'd ever heard. I was like, what are you saying? There's an island, like it sounds like a plot in a movie. There's an island where they fly famous rich scientists and politicians, and they compromise them with underage girls and get it on film so they could use it against them. I'm like, what? That sounds like lizard people. It sounds like, 5G creates COVID. Same thing.
Yeah.
But turns out it was true. And it's one of many things. He was the first one to warn me about a social credit score system. He's like, they're going to try to implement a social credit score system, and your money is going to be tied. They'll have centralized digital currency, and your money will be tied to your social credit score system, and you step out of line, you won't be able to buy things. You won't be able to travel. You won't be able to do anything. They're going to try to keep you within a 15-minute radius of your home, and they're starting to do that.
This became one of the most controversial conversations Joe Rogan ever had about Epstein. The discussion wasn't just about celebrities anymore. It became about power itself, how elites protect each other, how influence works behind closed doors, and how compromise and blackmail have allegedly existed inside politics for decades. According to this theory, Epstein's Island wasn't just a party destination, it was leverage. And if that's true, then some of the world's most powerful people may still be terrified about what could eventually become public.
A lot of those
100%.
guys that wound up going to that island, they probably thought, this is great. We get to party.
Nothing's free.
And they probably felt like they were rock stars because they get to hang out with the intellectual elite on an island with a guy who's just a billionaire philanthropist who's eccentric, who just loves women. He's a professed bachelor. And it all seemed too good to be true.
It's so true.
Because it was.
Yeah.
So I think he was an asset, whether or not it was for the Mossad strictly or Israel strictly or the United States strictly, whether it was a CIA thing, whatever, I don't know. But I think it was probably a part of a blackmail compromise effort.
Yeah.
Because those guys, there's a fucking dirty secret about these people that are in Congress and they party. Okay, they're regular guys and regular women, and they're in their 30s or 40s or whatever they are, and every now and then they do coke and they get drunk and they
Human beings.
Remember that DC madam that had a whole book of people, and then she wound up committing suicide? She said, "I'm not suicidal," and
see ya.
Yeah, Because there's probably a lot like that. And
yeah.
those kind of honeypot operations, they let these freaks know, like, hey, you're going to be safe with me. Charlie will take care of everything. Look, Bill Clinton used to come here. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to go to the
and
island.
that's a big endorsement. It's like, presidents were here, so it must be a secure area.
Exactly.
I can get
we
down.
are on the island with Bill.
Yeah.
This is fine.
And
We're
all these
fine.
girls show up, and you're like, well, this is Christmas in July.
Bill is really interested in string theory. He'd like to talk to you about string theory. So you're sitting down there having cocktails while Bill Clinton's getting a massage from some girl who's rubbing her tits against the back of his head while she's massaging him.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, that's really interesting. Hey, I'm kind of tired. I'm gonna take a nap.
Another thing about black holes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they all thought that it was this lovely exchange of powerful people and brilliant people. And then they were just getting dirt on all of them. Guys cheating on their wives, guys, whether knowingly or unknowingly, having sex with underage girls.
Everybody
And
wants to be.
Maybe some guys, that was their thing.
Sure.
Because it seemed like with Epstein, that was his thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think too. I don't think there's any evidence to either. I think it's all been. I don't think there was collected with that plea deal, and I don't think there's any list that's going to point to. There's no smoking gun. That's
I
all
don't know about that.
I think it's all been, taken care of. I think that it's. I think you could open up every file.
But that's the truth. Why did they have all those files? Why did they parade around with these binders?
Because
and
a
say,
lot of.
Do you remember those
Yeah.
photo ops that they said? Like, look, they did like a thing. We have the Epstein files right here,
Right.
and they had binders. Like, what kind of political theater is that? If you don't really have the Epstein
It
files,
was
like,
probably
what is
theater. And what I mean by that is I think, like, if they are keeping something quiet, it's because it's video of underage girls, or it's video of the victims who don't want that to be out there. And the Justice Department cannot make that public. They cannot bring that to Congress. That's all sealed for their privacy, right?
Well, that is the argument. But then they're saying now that there are no files. They're saying there's no video.
I believe that. Don't you?
I don't know. I think they have video. I think if you're got an island and you want compromise on people, you can't just have hearsay.
I would say I would agree.
I watched him that girl. Let's sue him. No, that's not how it works. You have to have video, and then you have to show it to the guy. Like Mr. Clinton.
Yeah.
And this is exactly why this discussion never dies down, because once power, influence, and secrecy mix together, it becomes impossible for the public to separate truth from speculation. And that's what keeps this story alive, even years later. Then came the moment that frustrated the public even more. After years of anticipation, officials announced that the review of Epstein-related files was essentially over. No major new arrests, no massive exposure, no dramatic accountability. And instantly, backlash exploded online because millions of people believed there were still unanswered questions and possibly protected names the public still hadn't seen.
Justice Department official says the review of the Jeffrey Epstein files is over. The same official indicated there would be no new charges. Now the Trump administration is facing backlash from Epstein survivors and Democrats. This was California Congressman Ro Khanna yesterday.
There is a demand for elite accountability, but the survivors' lawyers that I've talked to have said that the survivors are still upset. They're upset that many of their names accidentally came out without redactions, and they want to make sure the rest of the files come out.
CBS News Justice correspondent Scott MacFarlane joins us from our Washington bureau with more on this. Scott, you've been sifting through as much of this as you can. What's in this so-called final batch?
It's a process. We're still working through millions of pages here, Errol. And it's worth noting these were released more than 40 days after the legal deadline for the Department of Justice to do so. No one besides Epstein and former associate Ghislaine Maxwell has been charged, but the Department of Justice insisting its work is done has only fueled more controversy.
By this point, internet investigators were analyzing old emails, leaked messages, and archived reports non-stop. Some messages shocked people because of how direct they appeared. Again, allegations remain disputed in many cases, but the damage to public trust was already done. People no longer viewed Epstein as an isolated scandal. To many online, it became a symbol of elite protection, celebrity privilege, and a system ordinary people believe operates by completely different rules.
So this is the girl that was allegedly sending those messages to Epstein and dating Leo, Alicia Rimbenkova. And disturbingly, while she was dating Leo, she seems to have been trying to out girls and friends of hers to the Epstein machine. So here's another message from Alicia to Jeffrey Epstein sent in 2010. As you can see, she said, "But in the meantime, do you want to see my friend Swedish girl, remember?" Epstein says, "Who?" And she says, remember, I brought the girl to your house in Palm Beach like 4 years ago. That would have been in around 2006. There's also this message that she wrote, as you can see back in 2010, Alicia sent to Epstein. I'll find a girl for you this time, I promise. I'm so bitter now, I'll do anything. Europe would be better to find little girl. I don't see how you're possibly going to defend that one if you're Alicia.
And maybe that's the real reason this story refuses to disappear, because no matter how many headlines fade away, people still feel like they never got the full truth. The Epstein case stopped being just about one man a long time ago. Now it represents something much bigger, power without accountability, and until the public feels every question has been answered, speculation, the theories, and the fear surrounding those names will never fully go away.